From the Lone Star State of Texas, it is time for the 10th and final race of the 1984 Unlimited Hydroplane racing season. That being the Houston World Championships. And what a gorgeous setting. We're some 20 miles south of downtown Houston, near NASA, of course, the Lyndon Johnson Space Center. And we are on Clear Lake, here in the southern part of this state of Texas. Hello, everybody. I'm Don Poyer, again with Jim Hendrick to bring you today's race. And already we have a major development, just like last week at Lake of the Ozarks. The Squire Shop has broken another propeller. The blade coming off, damaging the rudder. And Jim Hendrick is down there with the driver, Mickey Riemann, for an update. Jim?
What was the first thing you noticed that was wrong? What did you feel?
Yeah, we've had a lot of propeller breakage this year. Everyone has. And it generally comes out with a big boom, a heavy vibration or kind of a boom explosion type. This time it was the boom and explosion type, and I thought we had just broken another propeller. I didn't know until they lifted it on the crane that we actually broke a shaft. The propeller came off and tangled up with the steering linkage in the back. I thought the rudder was gone because I lost all steering.
You lost the rudder arm.
The rudder's still on, but it broke the arm off, the mechanism for it. So I really don't know as much as you guys do now. I just had one chance to peek at it, except for the big boom.
Okay, Don?
On a positive note, the Texmo qualified. That is the outboard-driven tunnel hull owned by Bob Hall out of Texas and driven by Buck Thornton. They qualified for the first time in 1984, today at a speed of better than 108 miles per hour.
I'm real happy for the owner. I'm real happy for Mercury, and real happy for all the people that worked so hard to get us to where we are now.
And finally, it wouldn't be appropriate unless we talked to the defending champion, that being the Miss Renault, owned by Jerry Shaineth, driven by Milner Irvin. And Jim is with them right now. Jim?
I guess the big question is, Don, can they repeat? How about it, Jerry?
I'll tell you, the Renault is running great. The water in Houston's the best it's ever been, but you got to ask Milner.
Miller?
Jim, it'll be a tough act to follow after last year, but we are running a lot better than we were last year. We think we got a good chance.
A lot of competition here today. Now let's check the rundown for Heat 1A. Heat 1A will see Jerry Hopp driving the U-20 Rampage 3. He qualified at 108.709. Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, will be driven by Todd Yarling. They checked in at 115.340. The Miss Renault, defending champion, driven by Milner Irvin at 115.771. The Houston Gold Cup 85 U-80 with Ron Armstrong at the wheel at 120.514. Also qualifying for Heat 1A, the Miss Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld, national champion of 1984. He checked in at 121.245. And Miss Tostiasti with Steve Reynolds rounds out the field at 1A at 126.564. And that's the rundown of Heat 1A, and now for all the action at Heat 1B. How about it, Don?
All right, Jim, Heat 1B looks pretty good. We've got a couple of turbines as well as the established Merlin engines. Let's take a look. First of all, the Light All-Star, the host boat for this race with Tom DeEath aboard, qualifying at 107.6 miles per hour. Then comes the Texmo, qualifying for the first time in 1984. Buck Thornton, the driver, at 108.303. American Speedy Printing, the U6 with Ron Snyder at 116.339 miles per hour. The U8, the Miss Executone Telephones out of Seattle, George Johnson, the driver, 117 miles per hour. The U1, the Atlas Van Lines with Chip Hanover aboard. Of course, the turbine boat qualifying at a conservative 127 miles per hour. And the U2, the Squire Shop with Mickey Riemann aboard with that prop damage. Hopefully they'll be ready in time for Heat 1B. They qualified at 128.1. This is the final race day of 1984, and it should be one of the best and most exciting. The stage is set for 1A and 1B. We'll have those for you right after this timeout. Don Poyer along with Jim Hendrick in Houston. Here's the rundown for Heat 1A, including two of the hot boats, the Tostiasti and the Budweiser, for Heat 1A. And while we're here, let's take a close-up look at the drivers. Jerry Hopp out of the Seattle area, driving the Rampage 3. Todd Yarling out of Madison, Indiana, and the driver of the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit. The defending champion down here in Houston, E. Milner Irvin, and the Miss Renault, owned by Jerry Shaineth. Ron Armstrong, the Bob Patterson Special, it has lately just been named the Houston Gold Cup 85. Jim Kropfeld, the national champion, and the national championship boat, the Budweiser. And Steve Reynolds with the Miss Tostiasti, hoping to have a much better day than in the past couple of races. All six boats are now running for Heat 1A here at Clear Lake near Houston, Texas. You see the Tostiasti on the left, the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit on the inside, and they look very early. Let's wait and see if they beat the gun. They're all right. They just made it. The Tosti Asti with Steve Reynolds with a bit of a lead as they go in, but look at lane number 2. That's the Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld. Great acceleration into this very, very wide first turn. It's almost like a straightaway, as a matter of fact. And they'll be going down the back chute into a very, very tight second turn. The Budweiser in first place in lane number 1 back a ways is the Miss Renault with Milner Irvin. The Budweiser, though, in first place. But look at Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti. He had a great start, as we saw. He was very early, but he made it in time. And right now, he's got the lead over the Budweiser going down the main straightaway. But wait a minute, he's slowing down. Here comes the Bud back into the lead. More frustration for the Tosti Asti crew and driver Steve Reynolds. The boat has been running pretty well here in Houston. They've been dealing with the salt water again, and oh my goodness, more frustration. Let's hope their day is not over. The Budweiser, the national champion for 1984, with Jim Kropfeld in first place, coming down the main straightaway after that very tight turn of probably around 600 feet in diameter. That is the limit, the minimum limit for unlimited hydroplane courses. Speed for the Budweiser in lap number 1, as you see the Tosti trying to get started, 123.0 miles per hour. The Miss Renault moving up on the inside, however. Milner Irvin giving chase to the Budweiser. Third place, the Houston Gold Cup Month 1985. Ron Armstrong, the driver of that boat. As you see the Renault move up inside against the Bud. Kropfeld in the Bud against Milner Irvin and the Renault has moved out in first coming out of that wide turn. Going down the main straightaway, the back chute rather. In first place now is the Miss Renault with a Budweiser in second place. Joe Ritchie, Spirit of Detroit, in fourth place with Todd Garling out of Madison, Indiana. Coming in now that very tight turn, the Budweiser has regained the lead. Going into, as I said, a very tight, very tough turn for a heavy boat like the Bud, but they've got the power to make up for it. The Renault holding tough on the inside, a very light boat that has a turbocharged Allison engine. There it is again now, as you see the Budweiser again falling back against the Miss Renault as they complete lap number 2. The Renault speed 119 miles per hour, the Budweiser at 115, but again the Bud on those long straightaways able to accelerate and catch up with Milner Irvin and the Miss Renault. The Renault has to be favored in the turns, the Bud, of course, in the straightaways. The Rampage 3 in 5th place, that's Jerry Hopp out of the Northwest. The Budweiser again back into the lead, something we see now in this heat. He leads after the straightaway. The Miss Renault comes out of the turn first. Jim Kropfeld, one of the best in the business. 6 victories already for the Bud in 1984. 10 victories as an unlimited hydroplane driver for Kropfeld. Milner Irvin, he's the defending champion, of course, in the World Championships in Houston here. They go 6 laps, by the way, and since this is the world title, they go 6 rather than the customary 5 laps. The Budweiser speed on lap number 3, 124.8 miles per hour, and he's beginning to extend that lead over the Miss Renault and Milner Irvin. That boat, a lot of problems. They had prop damage, not only in Seattle, but also San Diego. They missed the Ozarks race 1 week ago in order to prepare for the World Championships here in Houston. And they're doing pretty well. They're in second place. The Budweiser again going around that wide first turn and going down the main straightaway. The national champion. This is the last time we'll see this boat race ever. It will be retired after the Houston Championships. There's the Miss Renault in second place. Looks like Milner will settle for second place and pick up 300 points in Heat 1A. Currently in third place is Ron Armstrong in the U80. That's the Houston Gold Cup 85, named to commemorate the race that'll be here next year, and that'll be the granddaddy of them all, the Gold Cup down here in Texas. The Budweiser coming around that very tight second turn as he comes wide, and of course this boat, as I said, will be retired after this race. It has 23 victories all told. If they win today, the World Championship, they'll tie Bill Muncie's last boat, the Blue Blaster, which picked up 24. The Budweiser coming in first place for Heat 1A. 400 points for Jim Kropfeld and the Budweiser. Second place out of Miami, Milner Irvin and the Miss Renault for 300 points. And third place, Ron Armstrong in the Houston Gold Cup 85, the U80. And the results are as follows. The Budweiser winning it, moving on down the line. More frustration for the Tosti Asti, failing to get any points, failing to finish. Let's go to Jim Hendrick.
Jim, if you will, please. All right, camera's not too shabby. Getting a leg up here on the World Crown.
Well, that's 400 points towards getting us in the final, which well, really counts. But of course, you got to do good here too.
What goes through your mind that this is the last race that you'll be running this sweet boat?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'd be glad to get a new one. I think with the the Griffin engine, the way the guys got it fixed up now with reliability, with that new and lighter Ron Jevons Hall, the Miss Budweiser, the new one will be just fantastic.
Miss Budweiser, a lot of competition for Miss Renault in that last heat, so let's go over to Don and Milner Irvin.
All right, Jim, let's see if we can talk to Milner for a second. Congratulations, nice showing out there. The boat looks good.
Thank you, Don. It's fun to race, too. Jim's a super driver.
How is it handling out there?
Much better. I think we're handling probably better here. In our last race, San Diego, we got our bugs ironed out. It's definitely handling better than it has ever before.
Now, what about 6 laps?
That's the reason I slowed down. I ran out of fuel. We're really pressed for fuel. We're using methanol, and it just eats it up. And I'm really pushed to run 6 laps.
The drama developing at the Squire shop. Will they be ready for Heat 1B? Jim?
Well, Don, it's going to be very close if they're going to make this Heat 1B right now. You can see the mechanics are feverishly working on the back of that damage that happened in pre-race practice. Whether they'll make 1B, that remains to be seen. Back up to you.
We're in Houston, home of NASA and the astronauts. And Tom Deeth of the Light All-Star, looking much like one, heads out for Don Poyer with Jim Henrik in Houston. Again, the Squire shop, just like last week, racing to repair damage in time for its first race of the day. Let's get a word from owner Bob Stile.
Robert, think you can get it ready in time, or is it ready now?
Don, it's ready, but it's close. We're going to make it. Squire's always in there. We've got a great team here. I'll tell you, they're fighting their way through, but we're going to make it.
Been doing a lot of this
It's
the last
close.
couple of weeks.
It's close. Boy, I'll tell you, our fuel consumption is going to be very tight out there because we lost our surge tank. So we're going to run directly right into the fuel tank. So we'll be short of fuel possibly. We're going to have to start a little late, but...
All right, but you got a rudder in there, a new rudder.
New rudder, all new. It's all new back there. They've several camps have lent their parts here, and we thank them all. They've all done great.
Nice going.
Thank you, Don.
So it appears that all 6 boats will be ready for Heat 1B. And here's the rundown. The Squire shop, Atlas, Executone telephones, and on down the line. Good race coming up. And here's a great sight. The Squire shop being lifted into the water. The Squire crew has done it again. They'll be ready for the race. Let's meet the drivers. First of all, the driver of the host boat, the Light All-Star, that being Tom Deeth out of Detroit, Michigan. Texmo driver Buck Thornton in his first race of 1984, the boat qualifying for the first time. Ron Snyder at American Speedy Printing. It's a miracle that boat is even here. We'll talk about that during the race. George Johnson of the Miss Executone telephones, number 3 in national points this year. Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines. He won the national championship on this course in 1983. And Mickey Riemann, and as we said, the Squire shop is ready for Heat 1B. The news isn't so good, however, for the Light All-Star. Tom Deeth waving, unable to start the Light, the turbine-powered boat. In the meantime, it'll be a 5-boat race for 1B. Here's the Executone with George Johnson in one of the outside lanes, and the race is on. On the inside is the Squire shop with the Atlas Van Line screaming around the lane. In lane number 2, around that wide turn, Mickey Riemann on the right, Chip Hanauer on the left. This wide turn, in a way, is favoring these turbines because they feel with the light boat and the low center of gravity, they can actually go with the hammer down all the way around that wide turn. There's the battle for 3rd and 4th. American Speedy on the inside, the Executone telephone on the outside. Coming into that tight second turn, you see Chip Hanauer and the Atlas Van Lines in first place with Mickey Riemann holding on, going the short route around the course. And the Atlas has gone dead in the water. Power problems for the Atlas Van Lines. It appears he's out of this race anyway, as the Squire shop, this boat, with Mickey Riemann, moves into first place. What a success story after racing to get the boat ready in time. Jim Harvey, the crew chief, and the rest of the gang working on that boat. Well, they've got a first-place boat right now in Heat 1B. The Squire shop, first place. Speed for the Squire, 112.3 miles per hour. In second place, here comes George Johnson and the Executone telephones in that new Lucero designed and built boat out of Seattle. George in his 3rd year of driving for Executone telephones. They're in second place. Speed 108 miles per hour. And this boat, for the first time, is qualified in 1984. The Texmo with Buck Thornton, the tunnel hole design. And as you see, it has problems in the turns. However, Chip Hanauer has even bigger problems with the Atlas Van Lines, waving that he's all right and he'll wait for a tow. Squire shop in first place. Executone telephones here in second. 3rd place, American Speedy Printing and Ron Snyder. Going into the tight second turn. The Squire Shop with Mickey Remus qualifying at better than 128 miles per hour. The Executone, they've been experimenting with different power plants, even a turbocharged Merlin engine. That would be something. If they could perfect that system, they would create a great deal of power with these original World War II airplane engines. With the Squire Shop, completing lap number 2 with a speed of 115.7 miles per hour. Mickey Reman in first. Executone Telephones in second. And American Speedy with only one engine to work with today, and that one on loan from the Joe Ritchie Spirit of Detroit camp. Ron Snyder easing his way around the course, hoping to stay alive with only one engine. Of course, normally an engine or a camp has maybe 5 to 6 engines to work with. They have burned up at least 10 on the 1984 circuit. But they're staying alive today thanks to Joe Ritchie and thanks to their crew donating that engine so that American Speedy can stay alive. Here, Buck Thornton and the Texmo, the tunnel hole, and Mickey Reman enjoying first place in fresh water as he comes around that tight turn again here on Clear Lake in Houston, Texas. The final stop on the 1984 tour. Mickey Reman on lap number 3. George Johnson in hot pursuit. You can see a bit of the spray from the rooster tail of the Squire. He's got about a rooster tail lead over the Executone Telephone. Squire Shop moving up on, I believe, the Texmo, about to lap him as Mickey completes lap number 4, 112.7 miles per hour for Reman and Company. What a miracle that this boat is even running. They had to make quick repairs here. They had to make quick repairs at Lake of the Ozarks, but they had a similar problem when a blade broke on the propeller, damaging the transom on that boat. The Executone Telephone still in second place, and Ron Snyder taking a lot of the heat off of that engine, that turbocharged Allison. They extended the exhaust pipe so some of the heat wouldn't go directly into Ron's face, but it's still a mighty hot ride when you're riding in one of those conventional boats. Mickey Reman cranking it to the left for one more time here in Heat 1B as he heads down the main straightaway for the last time. He's in front. He'll pick up 400 points as the winner of Heat 1B, Mickey Reman and the Squire Shop. Great effort on the part of the Squire Shop's crew. They get 400 points. Executone Telephone second, American Speedy with 225, only 3 boats finishing Heat 1B. Down to Jim in the pits.
Don, I guess the big story of the Squire Shop victory is the crew. They worked so hard to put him out there. Let's talk to the crew chief, Jim Harvey. Jim, I heard you say, I've never had a year like this.
It's incredible. It seems like every other race we've had a major problem with the hull as far as propeller breaking and doing extensive damage, which would normally take 2 or 3 weeks to repair, and we end up having to do it in 2 or 3 days, and sometimes 2 or 3 hours, and it's incredible.
Jim Harvey, congratulations to you and your crew. And another boat that hasn't been doing very well lately, but is back in action, is the American Speedy Printing Team. Let's go down to Don Poyer for that story.
Jim, I'm with Ron Snyder, the driver. You only got one engine to work with here, pal, and you're doing a pretty good job, it looks like.
Well, you know, in the last 5 races, it's the first time we finished a complete heat.
It
feels kind of good.
Consolation race in Seattle.
Yeah, holy mackerel. It feels kind of good, and, you know, the crew has been working their tails off on this thing, so one motor, you know, maybe that's been our handicap all year. We had too many. But, you know, we'll be ready for the next heat.
We are in Houston, Texas for the World Championships, and we'll return in a moment.